Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to the showdown between the Skaven led by Lord Skrulk the Plague Rat and the Warriors of Chaos, who are going to be led by Kolek Suneater. So without further ado, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So in the front line, I do have a very heavy core of the Stormvermin with the swords and shields. And the reason I bring them in the front line is simply to hold. You can see they have relatively high melee defense by Skaven standards at 44, 90 armor, and actually their leadership right now is 79, but I think that's partially because their flanks are secured, so yeah, their base value is actually 60. But by Skaven standards, it's pretty good. And as this kind of matchup developed early in the metagame, when the Skaven first came out, a lot of Skaven players were bringing like Plague Monks and Censer Bearers and using Wither to lower the armor of Chaos and win the matchup. But what Chaos would then do is just bring an entire front line of Forsaken and basically just steamroll your Skaven front line. Forsaken, I think my opponent has mostly Forsaken. If you look here, they have 63 weapon strength, a charge bonus of 37, and they're fairly armored themselves, so they just are very, very efficient, especially with the support of magic, at running over Skaven front lines. And the way to counter that is to bring Stormvermin with swords and shields. These guys have 90 armor, and as you guys know, Forsaken have relatively low armor piercing values, so the Stormvermin are going to be a safe pick. And then in order to actually kill the Forsaken, because, you know, Stormvermin don't really hit that hard, you're going to be using the Rat Ogres. So Rat Ogres are very good in the Chaos matchup. They can deal with Chosen with great weapons, not by themselves. They can deal with Forsaken, just a good utility unit. If you need to fight Chaos Knights, for example, you just stack them on top of some like cheap Skaven Slaves or some Stormvermin with Halberds. You're going to be in pretty good shape. And yeah, they got 60 speed, which is not bad at all. On top of that, for our leadership, we do have Lord Skrulk the Plague Rat. And, you know, he's by far the most competitive Skaven Lord. The Libra Bubonicus, even though it did get nerfed recently, is still very good, especially against Chaos and factions that don't have healing. So you can just use it on Kolek. It'll get him down to maybe 70%, 60% after 2 casts. The Rod of Corruption is often pretty good because, you know, this matchup can be very infantry heavy for both factions. So having an AoE damage source is very useful. And honestly, Skrulk is just an absolute pimp. So we got 3 Rat Ogres in the back line to give us some AP, 2 groups of Stormvermin with the Halberd, so it looks like a front line of the Sword and Shield, and the Halberd here, Halberd on the other side as well, and then just to buffer out our ranks, and I think we only had like 400 gold left, so I just got a couple Skaven Slaves, and they're pretty useful. I mean, if there's like a flank that's about to be compromised, and there's some Chaos Knights just coming in with a fat chub, you basically just send the Skaven Slaves in to take that charge, and honestly, they have 6,000 HP, give or take, and yeah, that's only 1,000 less than Stormvermin, and, you know, they're good for it. They're going to break instantly, but hey, they're going to take that beating like a champ. And last but not least, we do have the Hell Pit Abomination, anti-large, armor piercing. You know, it will struggle against Kolek in like a head-to-head duel, but that's the thing about Skaven. You're never fighting alone. There's always like a Vermintide, as they say. So the Hell Pit Abomination is just going to be standing on top of your Stormvermin or whatever else and, you know, fighting off those big monsters. Last but not least, we do have an Assassin. So the Assassin here, just trophy heads. That's basically all he's here for. And for my opponent, he has an army that's very heavily built against like traditional Skaven with like artillery and skirmishers and gutter runners and things like that. He has a couple of Chaos Warhounds, one here, and then on the far side, it looks like there's one there, and yeah, 4 hounds in total. So he was probably expecting some skirmishers, but regardless, they'll do pretty good at like rear charging and breaking the leadership of my Skaven. But the main core of his army is Forsaken. You can see this is kind of the traditional build against Skaven. You just use a bunch of Forsaken and just kind of bum rush their front line. But I think in total he has, looks like 4 Forsaken here. He has 1 here, and yeah, it must just be 5 in total. He's also got some Dragon Ogres, which are a pretty good choice against Doom Wheels. Very good against Doom Wheels, very good against Plague Furnaces. Pretty solid against Rat Ogres as well, if they can get them in an isolated 1v1. But yeah, they're definitely a solid choice, and I don't have any like missiles to punish them. We're just going to have to go straight fisticuffs. He's got some Chaos Bond, which always hit pretty hard against like low tier infantry, which the Skaven are known for. Kolek Suneater, and looks like he does have. Oh, he's got the Big Daddy Hammer. He's got the Star Crusher. So yeah, maybe he was expecting some Doom Wheels, and then also he does have a Chaos Sorcerer with Shadows, which Pendulum is very good against Stormvermin because they're tightly bunched. Looks like he does also have the Pit of Shades and Melkos. So without further ado, guys, let's get this match underway. Right now, I have to advance up the hill. I obviously don't have any range, so the burden is on me to advance. My opponent has his army kind of positioned in a bit of a surrounding maneuver. So you can see on the low ground here, he does have 3 Forsaken. He has kind of his army hiding over here. And he's slowly starting to surround me with his Chaos Warhound. So you can see they come around the backside here. And at this point, I was just kind of like, you know, what's going on here? Where's everybody? Because I couldn't see a lot of these troops. You can see he's getting some free harassment here with his Chaos Sorcerer, getting that sweet Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma. My Halberds, and that's kind of like a mini Fate unit. Definitely did some pretty solid damage to my Stormvermin. Thankfully, it didn't kill any models, but, you know, they're still holding on strong. So right now, I do see the Forsaken. That's the only thing I can really see. And now, as I come around the corner, I do see the Mountain God and his bros hiding there. The Chaos Spawn, all that kind of fun stuff. So I'm like, all right, well, this is going to be one of those games where I have to chase a lot because obviously the Chaos Army is very mobile. I can't catch Forsaken. 46 speed, I mean, my Rat Ogres could. That's playing into my opponent's hands because if I chase them and, you know, try and isolate them, Forsaken can trek Rat Ogres pretty bad. And on top of that, you know, I don't want to overextend, get isolated, you know, Kolek's mobile. So right now you can see I do pop the Libra Vuonicus on Kolek Suneater. He's going to be rushing in there, probably trying to exact some revenge, but it looks like the fighting's going to be underway. So the Storm Vermin are going to engage, and Kolek's just going to club a couple of those filthy rats right out of the gates. And you can see Skrulk definitely does not want any part of that business, so he's going to be running a little bit. But basically, I know that we're going to have a pretty blobby fight here, so I send in my Skaven Slaves, my Rat Ogres, my Halberds are going in there. And then shortly, my Hellpit Abomination will be following up. So if we look, you can see the frontline engagement is here. The Rat Ogres have started fight, or the Dragon Ogres. So many Ogres. But they only have 45 armor. So you can see they're actually taking a little bit of a chipping damage here from my Storm Vermin, which I'm pretty happy about. And yeah, like I said, Storm Vermin are very, very durable against, basically Forsaken and Chaos Spawn style of play. So right here, Kolek gets a little bit, his hubris is going to be his downfall. So he charges in here. I use Trophy Heads to make him relatively squishy. I got Rat Ogres, I have the Hellpit Abomination, so we got our Kaiju battle going on right here. And yes, Kolek will smash the Hellpit Abomination in a straight up duel. Oh, that's a pretty cool looking shot right there with like the spires in the background. It looks like he just like Matrix. Do you guys see that? Did my Hellpit Abomination just pop a Matrix right there? Kind of looks like he did. But Kolek is just getting whooped on with that Trophy Heads, and he's overextended. He's taking Rat Ogre, damage. The Assassin is in there with Bless with Filth. So my whole front line basically has poison. Is doing pretty well. So up on the high ground, the Skaven Slaves and some of these Clan Rats that I did summon are going to be fending off the Hounds pretty effectively with Lord Skrulk. And it looks like there's going to be a Pendulum going down as well. I think that was on my Storm Vermin line. See, it did some pretty good damage to these guys. But this is just a bit of a monster mash down here. And this is kind of what I was hoping to show you guys. The Storm Vermin have 103 models. The Forsaken only have 50 left. So they start with 120 models, which is pretty insane. And that's something a lot of people don't take into account when they look at Storm Vermin as a unit. Like, they just look at the stats like, oh, they're not that good. But yeah, there's 120 of them. So right here, the Storm Vermin are just kind of massacring these Forsaken. And like I said, this is kind of the hard counter to traditional Forsaken play, in my opinion. And yeah, they really pay for themselves. I mean, they're going to go down to maybe half health, but these Forsaken will be basically destroyed and routing off the battlefield. So I think it's a pretty good situation. Down here, I sent some of my Storm Vermin to kind of fend off those Hounds. But realizing there's a pretty big Forsaken flank coming in, I did pull them back up. And just recommitting to this kind of a monster fight right here. You can see a nice Pit of Shades going down there for my opponent. It's going to be tossing the salad of many of my Storm Vermin and some of my other elite troops in here, but for the most part, we're in good shape. Balance of power is pretty darn even. You can see my opponent is able to collapse my flank with the Hounds, but really all I lost here was a group of summoned Clan Rats and then some of my Skaven Slaves, and this is a lot of resources to be dedicating to like basically 125 gold and like 3 wins of magic. So I didn't mind this too much, but again, he's going to be able to kind of swoop in and get a rear charge if he wants to, but still, we're in good shape. We have 117 Storm Vermin, Skrulk's in pretty good shape here. We have an Assassin, and the Hellpit Abomination has been able to screen out Kolek, which has been really nice. You can see he did pop the Star Crusher to try and get some damage, but the Hellpit was pretty much full health here. So realizing he's coming in here, I do pop the Rod of Corruption because it was a pretty big commitment. You can see Forsaken coming in from the back here in just all sorts of directions, but the Rat Ogres are just doing a really good job of just being mobile and pounding out the Forsaken. Because they have really good AP, and they do hit quite hard, as long as they're not the unit that's going to be taking the damage. You see the Chaos Spawn, of course, being unbreakable, are going to fight tooth and nail here, but most of the Chaos forces have buckled. So at this point, it's going to become a bit of a kiting game. You can see my opponent is kind of scattering to the wind with most of his forces. A group of 60 Forsaken here is going to be pulling back. Kolek's going to be pulling back as well. And I'm kind of concentrated here in the middle of the map. Balance of power is now in my favor, probably about 55%, give or take. But the Chaos forces are just going to scatter, like I said. And it looks like he's probably going to try and regroup his army, which is definitely a good idea because he's very split up. And he still has a fair amount of troops. I mean, if Kolek... The reason the balance is so heavily in my favor is because Kolek is so beat up. If Kolek was a little bit healthier, it'd probably be even. And, he can still do a lot of work. He could probably kill Skrulk relatively quickly. So basically, at this point, my opponent just needs to try and isolate some of my expensive troops here. So in the back, you can see the Dragon Ogres coming in with, 8 models. They're about 2,400 HP, but they could still do some work against Rat Ogres. But really, my army is quite healthy. Full health Hellpit Abomination, 71 Storm Vermin here, 62 right here. I also have 112, so yeah, my forces are pretty good. But now that he's putting the burden on me to chase him, he can go around and just start picking stuff off of these, the Sorcerer here on the Manticore, who's very quick. He might actually be able to, rout off these Storm Vermin. But I feel like my army's pretty aggressive here. I should be able to catch these Forsaken. We have 52 speed? Yeah, 52 speed compared to the 60 of the Rat Ogre, so you can see him just piling downhill. But I don't want to commit too heavily, because if I commit too heavily, Kolek can turn around, he can get some free kills before the rest of my army is able to catch up. And like I said, Skaven troops, you want them to be fighting in a Vermintide. You don't want them to be fighting in isolated environments. So I chase a little bit more, but now realizing he could potentially pin me with Hounds and get a ton of free kills here, I decided to just pull back and get the rest of my army. So basically now it's just kind of a, corralling my opponent because he's kind of running. It's a bit of a game of cat and mouse here. You can see I popped the concealment bombs to stalk my assassin. Probably not the most necessary move, but he's got a lot of troops behind me as well. So I do keep some Storm Vermin back here. I also keep these Sword and Shields back there. And I'm just trying to catch him, basically. He's popping Foe Seeker. He's running with everything he's got. But you can see the Rat Ogres are finally going to catch this one very tattered group here. So they're going to take these Forsaken to town pretty hard. You can see the angry Skaven mutated beasts are going to get in there with their drills. And it's like yeah, they're both pretty mutated, I suppose. But Rat Ogres are going to get in there and give them the business for sure. I mean, they, like I said, Forsaken 75 armor, but Rat Ogres have really, really good AP. So we're going to be able to, pin those guys down. I also summoned a group of Clan Rats to try and like corral off my opponent, but Kolek is too quick, as well as these Hounds. So I am going to get the Forsaken, but aside from that, we're going to have a little bit of trouble getting the rest of his troops. So at this point, we'll go ahead and fast forward a little bit as, my opponent's just reforming ranks. His ultimate goal was obviously just to get these guys around the top. So right here, I actually do get a really good engagement with my Hell Pit Abomination. So he's able to just absolutely whomp on one of those Dragon Ogres. And what is his speed? 58 compared to 64. So the Ogres are a little bit faster, but, whatever I can catch here. If I have to turn and, slap some of these Forsaken, I'll take it at this point because he's basically just running in circles around me. But you can tell that he's getting ready for a final fight. He does have the Chaos Spawn, and, I can't fault him for that. I would probably do the same thing, but he's going to get his forces kind of all united here and probably do one last Doom push, which I'm totally fine with because Skrulk still does have Rod of Corruption. So if he does come in and commit to this final Alpha Strike, we're going to be ready for it. So here come the Storm Vermin, charging in the Melkoth Mystifying Miasma, and this is going to be the last stand of the Warriors of Chaos. So Kolek's going to be pushing in with the Hounds. They got their horns out. They're ready to party. A couple Chaos Spawn. How many of those are left? Actually 7. So that's quite a few. You can see he goes in with the Shadowcaster, trying to snipe out Skrulk, which is definitely a good idea. But I have so many Rat Ogres. I have a full health Hell Pit Abomination. I have an Assassin who will be engaging here in a moment, and just so much stuff. So here it comes. Kolek's coming in. He probably has a Star Crusher back at this point. But I really don't think the Chaos Forces, which are mostly Hounds and a couple like tattered Monstrous units, are going to be able to stand up to the forces of the Skaven, who do have the Blessed with Filth at this point. So I'm poisoning all these troops, and just you can see that the caster is being dragged down. Kolek is starting to get pretty low with trophy heads on him. His melee defense is actually 7, so even the most low tier of infantry can probably start to poke him a little bit. I do summon some Clan Rats here in the back to kind of pin down the Chaos Forces. I also get my Assassin up and around the back and get a nice little Pestilent Breath right there, which is going to roast a bunch of those Forsaken from Skrulk. Nice bubbly grossness going on right there, and that's pretty much going to be it, guys. Kolek's fighting. He's shattered due to army losses, and at this point, it's pretty much just the Chaos Spawn fighting. So there's like one Chaos Spawn left, and that was it. So very well played to my opponent. It was definitely a fun, fierce game, and I really do like that Skaven build against Warriors of Chaos. I mean, I think, yeah, artillery can be good and everything, but a lot of Chaos players are going to expect Skaven artillery, so if you just kind of go with a very like tough, rugged Skaven army, which is very contradictory to their kind of ideology and style of play, I think that the Stormburn with Swords and Shields are great. And if he does go Chosen, for example, let's say he went with like Chosen and Great Weapons, the Rat Ogres can do really well. Skrulk can bless him with Filth. The Hell Pit Abomination's okay against armor as well. And Storm Vermin with the Halberds do have decent AP. So you're not at a complete loss with this build, and I definitely liked it quite a bit. I mean, the Doom Wheel could have been okay as well, but he did have the Kolek, just pounds Doom Wheels, and so does Dragon Ogre. So I really feel like this is a bit more of a well-rounded build here. Well, it's not a well-rounded build because it's very melee-centric, but as far as like avoiding that type of play. So anyways, very well played to my opponent, Izarana. Look forward to running into you again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this Skaven vs. Chaos showdown. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.